Let's get a little bit more on all of this. Democratic Congressman Hakeem Jeffries of New York is joining us. He's a member of the Judiciary Committee. Congressman, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So what do you think of the release today? All of a sudden, 2001, final days of Bill Clinton's presidency, pardons Mark Rich, a controversial pardon, and a week before the election, the FBI releases a lot of documents from its vault on this. Are you suspicious about that, or was this simply the result of a Freedom of Information request?
Well, it's another very puzzling development. We're in the final stages of an important presidential campaign, perhaps the most consequential election of the 21st century. We should be talking about issues and the very different visions that Hillary Clinton has in terms of moving the country forward, Donald Trump turning back the clock. Instead, because of the FBI's actions, we're talking about emails, Anthony Weiner, and a 15-year-old pardon. That doesn't make any sense, and it undermines the integrity of the democratic process. I think the FBI and the director owe the American people an explanation as to what's going on.
Is this a violation of policy from your perspective?
Well, this certainly appears to be a violation of the Department of Justice policy, which is to tread carefully in terms of a law enforcement investigation or activity interfering with an election that is ongoing. We are within that 60-day window where the Department of Justice generally has said that the FBI and all Department of Justice law enforcement personnel should proceed with caution, and that apparently is not taking place.
Does the FBI Director, James Comey, have an obligation to tell the American people between now and Election Day, 1 week from today, to give an update on the Huma Abedin email situation that all of a sudden last Friday came to light?
Well, it is totally unacceptable for the director of the FBI to parachute into a presidential election, drop a bomb on Hillary Clinton without evidence of wrongdoing, and then hide behind his desk at the Department of Justice's or FBI offices once occupied and named after J. Edgar Hoover. I mean, this does not inspire confidence in the criminal justice system and in the law enforcement process. And so I think he absolutely has an obligation to come forward and level with the American people. Make it clear there's no evidence of wrongdoing. There's no indication that these emails have anything to do with Hillary Clinton. These are third-party emails that may even be personal in nature and not relate to Hillary Clinton's time at the Department of State.
His aides say he did have an obligation to inform Congress because he promised them he would if there's a new development. And they also say some of his FBI agents in this other unrelated case involving Anthony Weiner, the former congressman, he's accused of having a sexting relationship with a 15-year-old girl. That's why the FBI has been investigating him. All of a sudden did find some emails on his computer related to Huma Abedin and maybe to Hillary Clinton's private server as well.
Well, there have been several mistakes that the director has made. Now, listen, I think he's a talented law enforcement professional, but even the best of us can make mistakes. The first thing that he did wrong was that he decided to elaborate on his decision not to recommend prosecution against Hillary Clinton. He should have simply said, case closed. That is traditionally what the Department of Justice does. Instead, he goes into this long elaboration as to why he thinks that she may have made some mistakes, but it's not criminal. Totally unnecessary. And then he comes before the Judiciary Committee, and he answers a question where he says that if there's additional substantial evidence, that of course he'd take a look at it. But Wolf, I've reviewed the transcripts. No one has been able to point out to me where he actually promised to Congress that he would provide an update as to the reopening of an investigation. The FBI doesn't have an obligation to run back to Capitol Hill and inform Congress every time it decides to go on a possible fishing expedition. That's inconsistent with our and the separation of powers in our government.
I've looked at that exchange as well, and he was asked if there's substantial new information, will you come back and tell us? And he said, I would take a look at it. But you're right, he didn't flatly say he would do it, but he took a look at it, and he decided to tell Congress.